Far away from any planet, space was black and empty. No stars were close. No light touched this part of the galaxy. It was quiet, like a graveyard. An alien patrol ship moved slowly through this darkness. Its name was the Vaith Karn. It belonged to the Zurathi Empire, one of the strongest powers in the galaxy. The ship was small, fast, and built for scouting. Its job was simple: search unknown areas, report anything strange, and return home. Inside the ship, the crew was calm. Captain Sorav Dex sat in his chair, watching the black screen in front of him. He was an experienced officer, tall, with gray skin and sharp yellow eyes. He had flown through hundreds of empty systems before. Nothing usually happened out here. Beside him sat Lyra Ven, the ship's scanner officer. She was young, smart, and always alert. Her job was to watch the sensors and report anything unusual. For hours, nothing happened. Just silence, stars, and empty space. Then Lyra's screen blinked green. "Captain," she said, sitting up straight. "I'm picking up something." Sorav turned his chair toward her. "What is it?" "An object. Large. Metal. It's not moving." The captain frowned. Objects in deep space were rare. Most of the time, this area had nothing but rocks and dust. A large metal object meant only one thing: a ship. "Show me," he said. Lyra typed quickly. An image appeared on the main screen. It showed a massive shape floating alone in the dark. It was long, with sharp edges and thick armor plating. Even from a distance, it looked powerful. "That's a warship," said Dorn, the pilot, from the front seat. His voice was low with surprise. "A big one." Sorav leaned forward, studying the image carefully. "Whose is it?" Lyra ran the scan through the ship's database. A few seconds passed. Then her eyes widened slightly. "Captain, this is a human ship." The room went quiet. Humans were known across the galaxy, but not as a threat. Most species saw them as young, primitive, and weak. They had only entered space travel a few hundred years ago. A blink of time compared to empires like the Zurathi, who had been among the stars for thousands of years. Humans were seen as stubborn fighters, yes, but never dangerous, never something to fear. "A human warship," Sorav repeated slowly. "Out here? Alone?" "That's strange," said Dorn. "Humans don't usually send ships this deep into unclaimed space." Sorav's eyes narrowed. Something about this didn't feel right. "Lyra, run a full scan. I want to know everything about that ship before we get closer." "Yes, Captain." Lyra's fingers moved fast across the control panel. The scanner sent out invisible waves, reading the ship's structure, temperature, and energy levels. A few seconds later, the results appeared. "Captain, the ship is dead." "Dead?" "No power signature, no engine activity, no weapons charge, and—" She paused, checking again. "No life signs. Zero." Dorn turned around in his seat. "So it's a wreck?" "That's how it looks," said Lyra. But what?" asked Sorav. She frowned at her screen. "The scan is a little odd. The outside hull is cold, like it's been dead for a long time. But there's a strange heat reading coming from deep inside the ship, almost like something is still warm in there." Sorav's eyes sharpened. "Warm? On a ship with no power?" "It doesn't make sense," Lyra admitted. "Maybe it's just leftover heat from before the ship died. Or maybe my instruments are picking up interference." The captain sat in silence for a moment, thinking. A dead human warship, floating alone far from any human territory. This was valuable. If they could study it, learn about human weapons and technology, it would be a great achievement. Command would be very pleased, but something about the quiet in the room made him uneasy. He looked at Dorn. "Take us closer. Slowly." "Yes, Captain." The Vaith Karn moved forward, gliding silently through space. As they got closer, the human ship grew larger and larger on the main screen. It was massive, at least 3 times the size of their scout ship. Its hull was scratched and dented, covered in the marks of past battles. Long cracks ran across its armor. One side of the ship had a large hole, as if something powerful had torn through it. "Look at that damage," Dorn said quietly. "This ship has been through hell." "No wonder it's dead," said Lyra. "Whatever hit it, it hit hard." Sorav studied the wreck carefully. Despite the damage, the ship still looked strong. Even broken, it held a kind of quiet power, like a sleeping predator. "Send a scanning drone," he ordered. "I want a closer look before we send anyone inside." "Yes, Captain," Lyra replied. A small drone launched from the side of the Vaith Karn. It was no bigger than a human hand, equipped with cameras and sensors. It flew silently toward the wreck, its lights blinking softly in the darkness. On the main screen, the crew watched the drone's camera feed. It showed the human ship up close now. Every scratch, every dent, every broken piece of metal. The drone moved along the hull, scanning as it went. "Getting good data," said Lyra, watching her screen. "Structure confirms it's a Class 4 human warship. Heavy weapons platform. This thing could do real damage if it were active." "Good thing it's not," Dorn muttered. The drone reached the large hole in the ship's side, the one that looked like a battle wound. It slowed down, hovering at the edge, its light shining into the darkness inside. "Sending drone through the breach," Lyra said. "I want interior readings." The drone floated inside the ship. The camera feed became darker, grainier. Broken metal walls surrounded it. Wires hung loose from the ceiling. It was like flying into the throat of a dead giant. For a moment, everything was still. Then Lyra's screen flickered. "That's strange," she muttered. "What?" asked Sorav. The drone's sensors just picked up a small power spike, somewhere deep in the ship. Sorav straightened in his chair. "A power spike? I thought you said the ship was dead." "It should be," Lyra said, her voice tightening. "But something just turned on. For less than a second." The bridge went silent. Even Dorn stopped moving in his seat. "Could be a malfunction," Sorav said slowly. "Old ships sometimes have leftover energy in their systems." "Maybe," Lyra said, but she didn't sound convinced. "Keep the drone moving," Sorav ordered. "I want to see the ship's core systems." Lyra nodded and guided the drone deeper inside. The camera feed showed long, dark corridors. Broken control panels lined the walls. Frozen droplets of liquid, maybe water, maybe something else, floated silently in the air, frozen in time. The drone turned a corner and entered a large room. It looked like a command center, filled with rows of dead machines and dark screens. "This might be their main control room," Lyra said. "If there's any data left in this ship, it'll be here." The drone floated further inside, scanning every wall, every console. Then, without warning, its camera feed jumped. "What was that?" Dorn asked, sitting up. Lyra frowned, checking her screen. "I don't know. Some kind of interference." "Get the feedback," Sorav said sharply. Lyra typed quickly, trying to stabilize the connection. The screen flickered again, showing broken pieces of image, dark walls, a flash of light, static. Then for just one frame, something appeared on the screen. A single light. Small, blue, glowing softly in the far corner of the dark room. It hadn't been there before. The bridge crew stared at the screen in silence. "Lyra," Sorav said slowly, "is that light part of the ship's systems?" Lyra's fingers moved fast, checking the data. Her face grew pale. "Captain, according to my earlier scan, that section had 0 power. That light shouldn't exist." The image flickered once more, and this time the blue light seemed brighter. Closer. "Pull the drone out," Sorav ordered, his voice firm. "Now." "Trying," Lyra said, her voice tense. "Captain, the drone isn't responding to my commands." "What do you mean it's not responding?" "I mean it's not listening to me anymore," Lyra said, panic creeping into her voice. "Something else is controlling it." The screen flickered violently. Static filled the feed. Then, just before the connection died completely, one last image appeared. The blue light was no longer in the corner of the room. It was directly in front of the camera. And then the screen went black. The bridge was silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Sorav stared at the dead screen, his mind racing. A ship with no power, no life signs, no engines. And yet something inside it had turned on a light and taken control of their drone. "Captain," Lyra said quietly, breaking the silence. "The drone signal is gone. I've lost it completely." Dorn turned around slowly, his face pale. "Sir, what was that?" Sorav didn't answer right away. He kept staring at the black screen, thinking about the wreck floating outside, the dead human warship that wasn't behaving like it was dead at all. Every instinct in his body told him to turn the ship around and leave. Report the wreck to command, mark the coordinates, and let a bigger, better-equipped fleet handle it. But he also knew what command would say if he returned empty-handed. A human warship, even a dead one, was valuable. Weapons data, hull design, propulsion systems, all of it could give the Zarathi Empire an advantage. Command wouldn't accept fear as an excuse. They would want answers. He took a slow breath and turned to his crew. "Prepare a boarding team," he said. 4 soldiers, full gear. We're going inside." Lyra looked at him surprised. "Captain, after what we just saw..." "That's exactly why we're going," Sorav said firmly. "If there's something alive on that ship, I want to know what it is before it finds us first." Dorn swallowed hard but nodded. "Yes, Captain." Lyra hesitated for a moment, then turned back to her console, preparing the boarding sequence. Her hands were steady, but her eyes kept glancing at the black screen where the blue light had last appeared. Outside, the human warship floated silently in the darkness, its broken hull catching faint starlight. To anyone watching, it looked exactly like what it was supposed to be, a dead, harmless wreck. But deep inside, in a room with no power, a single blue light was still glowing, waiting. And somewhere in that darkness, a soft, mechanical whisper moved through the empty corridors, like a machine slowly waking up after a long, long sleep. The Vaith Karn crew had no idea what they were about to walk into. They only knew one thing for certain: the ship wasn't as dead as it looked. The boarding team stood in the small launch bay of the Vaith Karn, checking their gear one last time. 4 soldiers, dressed in thick gray armor, their helmets sealed tight. Each one carried a plasma rifle and a scanner strapped to their wrist. Their leader was Commander Rask, a broad-shouldered Zarathi soldier with years of combat experience. Beside him stood 3 younger soldiers, Toma, Vex, and Ilun. They were skilled, but none of them had ever boarded a wreck like this before. Captain Sorav's voice came through their helmet speakers. "Listen carefully. Something on that ship interfered with our drone. It may have taken control of it. Stay alert, stay together, and report everything you see." "Understood, Captain," Rask replied. "Lyra will guide you from here. Move fast, but move smart. If anything feels wrong, pull back immediately." Rask nodded to his team. "You heard the captain. Let's go." The small shuttle door opened and the 4 soldiers stepped inside. Within minutes, the shuttle launched from the Vaith Karn, gliding silently through space toward the massive, broken warship. As they got closer, the wreck looked even bigger than before. Its damaged hull stretched out like the body of a dead beast, silent and still. The large hole on its side, the one the drone had entered, grew larger and larger in the shuttle's front window. "That's our entry point," Rask said, guiding the shuttle carefully toward the breach. The shuttle slid inside the gap, moving slowly through twisted metal and broken beams. Finally, it landed inside a wide, dark corridor. The engines powered down and silence took over. "We're in," Rask reported. "Beginning entry." The shuttle door opened with a soft hiss. Cold air rushed out, carrying a strange, metallic smell. The soldiers stepped out one by one, their boots echoing softly against the metal floor. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing a long corridor stretching ahead. Broken wires hung from the ceiling. Pieces of shattered metal littered the ground. Frozen droplets, The same ones the drone had seen earlier, floated silently in the air. "Careful," Rask said. "Watch your step." Toma looked around nervously. "This place feels wrong." "Focus," Rask said sharply. "Vex, take point. Ilun, watch our back. Toma, stay with me." The team moved forward slowly, weapons raised, scanning every shadow. Their footsteps were the only sound in the dead silence. Back on the Vaith Karn, Lyra watched their progress on her screen, guiding them through the ship's layout. Based on the drone's earlier scan, the control room should be about 200 meters ahead. "Head north." "Copy that," Rask replied. The team continued through the corridor, passing broken doors and empty rooms. Everything looked abandoned, but strangely, not destroyed. Chairs were still in place. Storage containers were closed and untouched. It looked less like a ship that had been in a violent battle, and more like a ship that had simply been left behind. "Captain," Toma said, his voice uneasy, "this doesn't look like a wreck. It looks like everyone just left." Sorav's voice came through the comms. "Keep moving. Report anything unusual." They walked further, passing a large room filled with rows of storage lockers. Vex stopped, shining his light on one of the lockers. A strange symbol was painted on its surface, a countdown-like series of numbers, followed by unfamiliar human writing. "Commander, look at this," Vex said. Rask walked over, studying the numbers. "Lyra, can you translate this?" Lyra's voice came through. "Sending the image now, and give me a moment." A few seconds passed. Then her voice returned, tense. "Commander, that's not a countdown. It's a warning label. It says something like, 'Restricted access, authorized personnel only.'" "A supply room?" Ilun asked. "Maybe," Lyra said. But there was another word underneath. My translation isn't perfect, but it looked like trap. The soldiers went still. "Trap?" Toma repeated. "Trap for what?" "I don't know," Lyra admitted. "The human language isn't fully in our database. It could mean something else entirely." Rask took a slow breath. "Stay sharp. Keep moving." They pressed on, deeper into the ship. The corridors grew narrower, darker. The air felt colder with every step. Then Vex, walking ahead, suddenly stopped. "Commander," he said quietly, "I see something." The team gathered behind him. Ahead, at the end of the corridor, a faint blue light flickered in the darkness, the same light the drone had seen earlier. "That's it," Rask muttered. "That's what took our drone." The soldiers raised their weapons, aiming toward the light. "Lyra," Rask said, "confirm. Is that light part of the ship's systems?" There was a pause. Then Lyra's voice returned, careful and slow. "Commander, I already told you. That section had no power. That light shouldn't be there." The blue light flickered again, then steadied, glowing softly at the end of the hall. "Approach carefully," Rask ordered. The team moved forward step by step, their lights mixing with the strange blue glow ahead. As they got closer, they saw the light was coming from a small device attached to the wall, a strange glowing panel with human symbols etched across its surface. "It's some kind of terminal," Toma said, studying it closely. Vex leaned in, examining the panel. "It's active. Somehow, it's active." Rask stepped closer, staring at the glowing screen. "Lyra, can you scan this?" "Scanning now," Lyra replied. A moment of silence passed, then her voice came back, slower this time. "Commander, this isn't part of the ship's main power grid. It's running on a separate, hidden power source, something built specifically to stay hidden and stay on, even after the rest of the ship shuts down." Rask's eyes narrowed behind his helmet visor. Why would they do that? Before anyone could answer, the panel suddenly flashed brighter. Then a soft mechanical voice echoed through the corridor, calm, steady, and clearly artificial. "Unauthorized visitors detected." The soldiers froze. "Lyra," Rask said quickly, "is that the ship talking?" I think so," Lyra stammered. "Commander, Get out of there. Now. But before the team could react, the corridor lights suddenly flickered on, one section at a time, illuminating the entire hallway in a dim red glow. The sound of distant machinery echoed through the ship, like something massive waking up. Command center's ahead, Rask said, forcing calm into his voice. Move. Fast. The team sprinted down the corridor, following the path Lyra had marked earlier. Behind them, they could hear more systems activating, soft clicks, hums, and mechanical groans, as if the ship itself was coming back to life. They reached a large set of double doors. Rask motioned for Vex to open them. With a hiss, the doors slid apart, revealing a wide, dimly lit room filled with control panels and dark screens, the same room the drone had entered before. This is it, Toma said. The command center. The soldiers stepped inside cautiously, weapons raised. The room was eerily quiet, except for the faint hum of machinery. Lyra, what do you see on our feed? Rask asked. I'm getting your video now, Lyra replied. Commander, check the far wall. The team turned their lights toward the far side of the room. There, mounted on the wall, was a large screen, dark but clearly active, its surface glowing faintly with static. Rask approached slowly. Lyra, can you access this system remotely? Trying, Lyra said. A few seconds passed. Commander, I can't get in. It's locked. Whatever this is, it's not letting outside connections through. Suddenly, the screen flickered to life. Text began appearing across its surface. Human words, slowly forming one letter at a time. Lyra gasped through the comms. Commander, I can translate this. It says... Before she could finish, a voice, calm, human, and clearly intelligent, spoke through the room's speakers. You shouldn't have come here. The soldiers stood frozen, weapons raised toward the screen. Identify yourself, Rask commanded, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. There was a pause. Then the voice spoke again, calm and unhurried. This vessel is not what you believe it to be. You have made a mistake. Toma took a step back. Commander, I don't like this. Hold position, Rask ordered. The voice continued. You came searching for a weak, dead ship. You found something else. The lights in the room flickered once more. Then, with a heavy mechanical sound, the double doors behind them slammed shut. Doors just sealed, Vex shouted, spinning around. Rask rushed to the door, pressing his hand against the control panel. It didn't respond. Lyra, the exit is sealed. Get us a way out. On the Vaith Karn, Lyra's hands moved frantically across her console. Trying, Commander. I can't override it. It's not connected to any system I can access. Inside the command room, the screen flickered once more, and the calm voice spoke again. You are not the first to find this ship. You will not be the last. But now, you must listen. Rask turned back toward the screen, his weapon still raised. What do you want from us? There was a long pause. The room grew colder, the red lights pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. Then the voice answered, quiet but firm. Nothing. I only want you to understand, before it's too late. The screen went dark, and then deep within the ship, a low, powerful hum began to grow, the unmistakable sound of something enormous coming back to life. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the walls of the command room. The soldiers stood frozen, weapons still raised, unsure what to aim at. There was no enemy in sight. Only sound. Only darkness pressing in from every corner. Commander, what's happening? Toma asked, his voice tight with fear. Rask kept his eyes on the dark screen. I don't know. Stay ready. On the Vaith Karn, Lyra worked frantically at her console, trying every override code she knew. Nothing worked. The sealed doors, the strange voice, the hidden power source, none of it matched anything in their records about human ships. Captain, she said, turning to Sorav, I can't break through. Whatever is running this ship, it's not standard technology, it's something new. Sorav's jaw tightened. Keep trying. Rask, report your status. Inside the command room, Rask took a slow breath. We're sealed in, Captain. The voice, and whatever it is, said it wants us to understand something before it's too late. Understand what? Sorav asked. Before Rask could answer, the screen on the wall flickered back to life. This time, instead of just words, an image appeared. A simple diagram showing two ships facing each other in open space. The calm voice returned, steady and clear. Let me show you something. The diagram began to move, showing a small ship approaching a larger one, scanning it just as the Vaith Karn had scanned this wreck. Many years ago, humanity was young in the stars. We had few weapons, few ships, and few allies. Other species saw us as weak. They were not wrong. The image shifted, showing the small human ship being destroyed by a larger, more advanced vessel. Species after species attacked us, not because we threatened them, but because we looked easy. They scanned our ships first, they found our weaknesses, then they struck before we could prepare. Vex lowered his weapon slightly, listening. Commander, is this ship trying to explain itself? Rask didn't answer. He kept watching the screen. The voice continued. Humanity lost many ships this way, many lives. We could not compete in strength alone, so we changed our strategy. The image shifted again, this time showing a wrecked-looking human ship, floating alone, exactly like the one the soldiers were standing in. We began building ships like this one, ships that looked dead, ships that looked weak, damaged, harmless. We call them ghost ships. Toma's eyes widened behind his visor. Wait, this whole thing is fake? Not fake, the voice corrected. Real. This ship truly fought a battle. It was truly damaged, but its purpose now is not to fight. It is to wait. The image changed once more, showing an alien scout ship approaching the wreck, sending a drone inside, just as the Vaith Karn had done. When another species finds a ghost ship, they believe they've found an easy prize. They send scanners. They send soldiers. They try to steal our technology, our secrets, our weapons data. Rask's grip tightened on his weapon. And what happens to them? There was a pause. Then the voice answered, calm as ever. That depends on their intentions. Some are simply curious explorers. We let them go, unharmed, after they understand the truth. Others. The image shifted one final time, showing a small fleet of hidden ships, cloaked and silent, surrounding the wreck from a distance. Others come seeking weapons to use against us, against humanity. For them, the ghost ship is not bait. It is a trigger. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Lyra, Rask said quietly, please tell me you're hearing this. I'm hearing it, Lyra replied, her voice shaking slightly. Captain, I think this ship has been sending a signal since the moment we boarded it. Sorav's eyes widened. A signal? To where? Before Lyra could answer, alarms began blaring across the Vaith Karn's bridge. Red lights flashed across every console. Captain, Lyra shouted, I'm picking up multiple unknown contacts. They just decloaked, less than 10,000 kilometers away. Sorav spun toward the main screen. New shapes appeared on the display. Sleek, powerful warships, their weapons already charged and ready. They hadn't been there a moment ago. They had been hiding the entire time, cloaked, silent, watching. Human ships, Dorn said, his voice barely above a whisper. A lot of them. Inside the command room, the calm voice spoke once more, and this time, its tone carried a quiet weight. You are not the first to find this ship. Some who came before you attacked without listening. They did not survive. Others listened and left in peace. Rask lowered his weapon slowly, understanding now settling in his chest like a heavy stone. The choice is yours. Silence filled the command room. The soldiers looked at each other, then at Rask, waiting for orders. On the Vaith Karn's bridge, Sorav stared at the human fleet surrounding his ship. He had walked into this expecting an easy discovery. A dead ship, free technology, an easy report to send home. Instead, He had walked into a trap built by a species everyone in the galaxy had underestimated. "Captain," Lyra said quietly. "Orders?" Sorav's mind raced. If this was truly a trap built to punish aggressors, then fighting back would mean death. But surrendering meant returning home with nothing, or worse, revealing to command that the great Zarathi Empire had been outsmarted by primitive humans. He looked at the screen, watching the silent, powerful human ships hold their position. They weren't firing. They weren't moving closer. They were simply waiting. Just like the wreck had waited. "They're not attacking," Sorav said slowly. "They're giving us a choice." Inside the command room, Rask made his decision. He lowered his weapon fully and signaled for his team to do the same. "We hear you," Rask said, speaking directly to the screen. "We didn't come here to attack humanity. We came to investigate an unknown object. That's the truth." There was a long pause. Then the voice responded, calm as before. "Then you have nothing to fear." With a soft mechanical click, the sealed doors behind them slowly opened. "You may leave. Take nothing. Report what you have learned honestly. That is all we ask." Rask let out a slow breath. "Understood." The team moved quickly but carefully back through the corridors, retracing their steps toward the shuttle. Behind them, the lights of the ship dimmed once more, section by section, as if the wreck was settling back into its quiet, waiting sleep. On the bridge of the Vaith Karn, Sorav made his own decision. "Power down weapons," he ordered. "Signal the human fleet. Tell them we are leaving peacefully." Lyra quickly relayed the message. For a tense moment, nothing happened. The human ships remained still, silent, watching. Then slowly, they began to move aside, opening a clear path for the Vaith Karn to retreat. Sorav watched the massive human warships part like a curtain, revealing open space beyond. He had come searching for an easy discovery. Instead, he had discovered something far more important. A truth the rest of the galaxy did not yet understand. Humanity was not weak. Humanity had simply been waiting. The shuttle carrying Rask and his team broke free from the wreck's twisted hull, drifting out into open space. Behind them, the massive human warships still held their position, silent and unmoving, watching the small shuttle make its way back to the Vaith Karn. Inside the shuttle, no one spoke for a long moment. The only sound was the soft hum of the engines and the steady beeping of instruments. Finally, Toma broke the silence. "Commander, did that really just happen?" Rask stared out the front window at the fleet of human ships surrounding them. "It happened. They could have destroyed us," Vex said quietly. "Easily, we were completely trapped." "But they didn't," Elune added. "Why?" Rask thought for a moment before answering. "Because destroying us wasn't the point. Teaching us a lesson was." The shuttle continued its slow path back toward the Vaith Karn, passing between rows of silent human warships. Each one was sleek, powerful, and clearly built for war. Nothing like the primitive ships the Zarathi Empire had always imagined humans flying. On the bridge of the Vaith Karn, Sorav watched the shuttles approach on the main screen, along with the massive fleet surrounding it. His hands were steady, but his mind was racing. Every report he had ever read about humanity called them young, weak, and disorganized. A species barely capable of defending their own home system, let alone building something as advanced as this. Yet here he was, staring at a fleet that had appeared from nowhere, cloaked and silent, ready to strike at any moment, and had chosen not to. "Captain," Lyra said softly, "the shuttle is docking now." "Good," Sorav replied. "Get Rask and his team to the bridge the moment they're aboard." A few minutes later, the boarding team walked onto the bridge, their armor scuffed and their faces pale beneath their helmets, now removed. Rask stepped forward and gave a quick report. "Captain, the ship wasn't a wreck. Not really, it was a trap. But not the kind we expected. It was built to test whoever found it. If we had attacked or tried to steal their technology, that fleet outside would have destroyed us without warning." Sorav's eyes narrowed. And because we didn't attack, they let us go, Rask said. The ship's voice called it a ghost ship, something humanity built after losing too many battles early in their history, a way to catch enemies who scan human vessels looking for an easy win. Dorn, still seated at the pilot's controls, shook his head slowly. So this whole time, we thought we found something weak and forgotten. But really, we walked straight into a message. Sorav finished. A message meant for anyone who still believes humans are an easy target. The bridge fell silent as the crew processed what had happened. Outside, the human fleet remained in position, their weapons still powered but not aimed, waiting. Lyra's console beeped. She looked down, then back up at the captain. Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from the lead human ship. Sorav straightened in his chair. Put it through. The main screen flickered, then showed a simple video feed. A human commander standing calmly on the bridge of his own ship. He was older, with gray hair and steady eyes. His uniform was clean, practical, without unnecessary decoration. He didn't look angry. He didn't look threatening. He looked patient, like someone who had done this exact thing many times before. Zurathi vessel, the commander said, his voice calm and clear. I am Fleet Commander Ashwin Cole, Terran Defense Forces. I understand you've had an educational visit to one of our decoy vessels. Sorav kept his expression neutral, though his mind was still adjusting to the situation. Commander Cole, we were conducting a standard survey of an unidentified object. We meant no hostility toward your people. I know, Cole replied simply. If you had, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We'd be collecting debris instead. The bluntness of his words settled heavily over the bridge. No one spoke. Cole continued, his tone still calm, almost gentle. Let me explain something, Captain, since you clearly weren't expecting this. A long time ago, when humanity first reached the stars, we were exactly what your records probably say. Small, disorganized, and far behind everyone else. We lost ships. We lost colonies. We lost people. Because everyone who found us assumed we were harmless. Sorav listened silently, letting the human commander speak. We learned quickly that looking strong wasn't always useful, Cole said. Strength invites challenge. But looking weak? That invites carelessness. So we built ships like the one your team just explored. Old, damaged-looking vessels placed in quiet corners of space waiting for someone to take the bait. And if we had attacked? Sorav asked. Cole's expression didn't change. Then my fleet, which has been shadowing your scout ship since you entered this sector 3 days ago, would have ended the encounter permanently. No warning. No negotiation. A chill went through the bridge. Lyra's hands tightened slightly on her console. Dorn glanced nervously at the captain. 3 days? Sorav repeated slowly. You've been tracking us since we entered the sector. Longer than that, if I'm honest, Cole said. We track most unfamiliar ships that come near our decoy fields. It's a precaution. Most visitors are curious explorers like your crew turned out to be. Some are not. Sorav absorbed this information carefully. Everything he had believed about humanity, their weak defenses, their limited technology, their disorganized fleets. None of it matched what he was seeing now. A hidden fleet, advanced cloaking technology, a carefully designed trap built specifically to identify threats before they could strike. Why show us all this? Sorav asked. Why not simply let us leave in silence? Cole's expression softened slightly, though his eyes remained sharp. Because information travels, Captain. You'll return to your command, and you'll report what happened here. And when you do, I want the report to be accurate. Humanity is not the fragile, disorganized species your empire believes it to be. We would prefer other powers understand that clearly, before a misunderstanding leads to unnecessary conflict. A warning, Sorav said quietly. A clarification, Cole corrected. We're not interested in starting wars. We've had enough of those already, both with your kind and others. But we are very capable of finishing one, should it come to that. The bridge remained silent as the weight of his words settled in. Sorav studied the human commander's calm expression, searching for any sign of exaggeration or bluff. He found none, only quiet, absolute confidence. "I'll make sure the report reflects what we witnessed here," Sorov said finally. Cole nodded once. "Good. Then I believe our business here is finished." "One more question," Sorov said before the transmission could end. The ship's voice, was that an artificial intelligence? For the first time, something like a small, knowing smile crossed Cole's face. "Something like that. We don't like to give away all our secrets in one conversation, Captain. Perhaps another time." With that, the screen went dark, ending the transmission. Outside the Vaith Karn, the human fleet began to move, their cloaking fields activating one by one. Ship after ship shimmered and vanished from sensors, disappearing back into the darkness of space as silently as they had arrived. Within minutes, there was no trace of them at all, as if the powerful fleet had never been there in the first place. The wreck, the ghost ship, remained floating alone once more, dark and silent, waiting for the next unsuspecting visitor. Sorov sat back in his chair, letting out a slow breath. The bridge crew looked to him, waiting for orders. "Set a course back to home space," he said quietly. "We're done here." "Yes, Captain," Dorn replied, already inputting the coordinates. As the Vaith Karn turned away from the wreck and prepared to jump into hyperspace, Lyra spoke up, her voice thoughtful. "Captain, do you think Command will believe our report?" Sorov considered the question for a long moment. "I don't know. But it doesn't matter. We tell them the truth, and let them decide what to do with it." The ship's engines hummed to life, and within moments the Vaith Karn disappeared into hyperspace, carrying its crew, and their new understanding of humanity, back toward home. Weeks later, in a quiet meeting room deep within Zurathi Empire Command, Sorov stood before a group of senior officials delivering his official report. He spoke carefully, describing the wreck, the hidden fleet, the calm but firm warning from Commander Cole. The officials listened in silence, their expressions unreadable. When he finished, one of the senior commanders leaned forward. "You're certain of this account?" the commander asked. "A hidden fleet? Decoy ships, all designed specifically to trap unsuspecting visitors?" "I witnessed it myself," Sorov said firmly. "My crew can confirm every detail." The room fell into a heavy silence. For years, the Zurathi Empire, along with most of the galaxy, had viewed humanity as a minor, insignificant species, one to be studied, perhaps exploited, but never truly feared. That belief had just been challenged. "This changes things," one official murmured quietly to another. "Indeed," the senior commander said, his voice thoughtful. "Perhaps it's time we reconsider our assumptions about the humans." Sorov remained silent, letting his report speak for itself. He had gone looking for an easy discovery, expecting nothing more than salvage and data. Instead, he had learned a lesson that would ripple far beyond his own ship, far beyond his own empire. Humanity, once seen as weak and forgettable, had proven itself to be something else entirely. Patient, clever, and quietly, dangerously prepared, and somewhere out in the vast darkness of space, more ghost ships drifted silently, waiting for the next unsuspecting visitor to make the same mistake Sorov's crew had almost made. Waiting, patient as ever, for the galaxy to finally understand the truth. Humanity was never as weak as it seemed. It had simply been waiting for the right moment to be underestimated. Months passed since Sorov's report reached Zurathi Empire Command. The story of the ghost ship spread quietly through the highest levels of power, but not everyone believed it. In a private chamber deep within the Zurathi capital, a group of high-ranking officials gathered around a dark table. Among them stood General Threx Molan, a hard, battle-scarred commander known across the Empire for his aggressive tactics. He had read Sorov's report 3 times, and each time his doubt grew stronger. A single ship, a single fleet that appeared and disappeared without a fight, Threx said, his voice sharp with disbelief. "You expect me to believe humans, of all species, built something this advanced, The evidence was verified, said one of the officials calmly. Sensor logs, drone footage, testimony from 4 soldiers, and the captain himself. Threx shook his head. Or it was a trick, a clever illusion meant to scare us away. Humans have always been good at bluffing. This is no different. The room fell into an uneasy silence. Finally, the Empire's senior council leader spoke. General Threx, what do you propose? Threx's eyes gleamed with determination. Send a real fleet, not a single scout ship, a full strike group, disguised as a survey mission. If the humans truly have this technology, we test it properly. If it's a bluff, we expose it, and take what we came for. The council exchanged uncertain glances. It was a bold move and a dangerous one, but pride, more than logic, guided their decision. Approved, the council leader said finally. General Threx, you will lead this mission personally. Proceed with caution, but proceed. But Threx allowed himself a small, confident smile. Caution is for the weak. Weeks later, a large Zurathi fleet, 5 heavily armed warships led by Threx's flagship, the Cauldron Vex, entered the same quiet sector where the Vaith Karn had first found the human wreck. This time there would be no small scout ship, no easily startled crew. This time the Zurathi Empire came prepared for a fight. On the bridge of the Cauldron Vex, Threx stood tall, watching his sensors carefully. Report, he said to a scanning officer. General, we've located the coordinates from Captain Sorav's report, the officer replied. The wreck should be nearby. Good, Threx said. Approach carefully. If this ghost ship is real, I want to see it with my own eyes. The fleet moved slowly through the dark sector, scanners active, weapons ready. After several tense minutes, the same broken, drifting warship appeared on their screens, silent, damaged, seemingly lifeless, exactly as Sorav had described. There it is, Threx muttered, studying the wreck. Just as the report said, his scanning officer frowned at his console. General, I'm reading the same anomalies Captain Sorav mentioned. Cold exterior, strange warm signatures deep inside. But there are no other ships detected nearby. No hidden fleet, no cloaked signatures, nothing. Threx's confidence grew. Just as I thought. A bluff. A single decoy, meant to scare off curious explorers. There's no fleet hiding out here. General, should we proceed with caution regardless? The officer asked. Threx waved off the suggestion. We have 5 warships fully armed. If anything threatens us, we destroy it. Send the assault teams. This time we're not just scanning, we're taking their technology by force. Aboard the flagship, 3 armored transport shuttles launched, carrying dozens of Zurathi soldiers toward the wreck. Unlike Sorav's cautious approach, Threx's soldiers moved aggressively, cutting directly into the ship's hull with plasma torches instead of searching for existing openings. Inside the wreck, the soldiers moved quickly through the corridors, weapons raised, moving with far more force and far less caution than the previous team. They ignored warning signs on the walls. They forced open sealed doors. They marched straight toward the command center, exactly where Sorav's team had encountered the ship's voice. Within minutes, they reached the same large room, its dark screen waiting silently on the far wall. The lead soldier, a rough, impatient officer named Draxus, kicked open the doors and stormed inside. Scan everything, he ordered his team. Command wants results, not excuses. As his soldiers began forcing open control panels and ripping out data cores, the dark screen on the wall flickered to life exactly as it had before. Unauthorized visitors detected. Draxus smirked, unimpressed. We already know your tricks. Sorav's crew told us everything. Nice try. The calm voice responded, unmoved by his defiance. Then you understand the consequences of continuing. We understand you're bluffing, Draxus said, motioning for his team to keep working. There's no fleet out there. Our scanners confirm it. You're just a talking computer trying to scare us off. There was a brief pause. Then the voice replied, its tone unchanged. You are partially correct. There is no fleet nearby this time. Draxus paused, glancing at his men. What? Commander Cole's fleet was reassigned after your Captain Sorav's peaceful departure. There was no further reason to keep them stationed here. For a moment, Draxus felt a flicker of doubt, but quickly dismissed it. Then this ship really is defenseless. Take everything valuable. Move fast. I did not say defenseless, the voice corrected calmly. I said the fleet was reassigned. This vessel has other defenses. Before Draxus could respond, alarms blared throughout the command room. Red lights flashed rapidly, and a low, powerful hum began building beneath their feet, far stronger and more immediate than the gentle warning Sorav's team had experienced. General Threx, the panicked voice of one soldier called through the comms. Something's happening down here. On the Cauldron Vex, Threx frowned at the sudden alert. Report. Before anyone could answer, his scanning officer shouted in alarm. General, massive energy surge detected inside the wreck. It's powering up. Impossible, Threx snapped. That ship has no power source large enough for... His sentence was cut short as the wreck's hull suddenly lit up with bright blue energy, pulsing rapidly along hidden lines across its damaged surface. What had looked like a dead, broken ship began to visibly transform, sections of its hull sliding open, revealing hidden weapon systems previously invisible to their scanners. That's not possible, the scanning officer shouted. This wasn't in any of our readings. Inside the command room, Draxus and his soldiers stumbled backward as the entire ship shuddered beneath them, coming alive with sudden, overwhelming power. This vessel was never truly dead, the voice said calmly, almost gently despite the chaos unfolding around it. It was simply resting, conserving its power for exactly this situation. General, orders? Draxus shouted through his comm, panic clear in his voice. Aboard the Cauldron Vex, Threx stared in disbelief as the wreck's weapon systems locked onto his fleet one by one. Pull our soldiers out. Now. But it was too late. With a sudden, powerful surge, the ghost ship's defensive systems activated fully, unleashing a wave of energy that disabled the transport shuttles still docked nearby, trapping Draxus and his team inside. You were warned, the voice said simply. Now you will understand fully. The wreck's weapons, hidden for years beneath its broken exterior, began charging visibly, aiming directly at Threx's approaching warships.